So what's up, guys? We're going to jump right into this one. The title of the video kind of tells you everything you need to know. I'm going to try to make this short, fast, sweet, quick, and to the point. All right, so the front suspension on the Honda Rebel 250 is, it's a little soft, we'll say. So I'm going to try to do all this in front of the camera just so you can see I'm not lying to you. So I've got a washer here that measures 1 inch, 2.5 thousandths, we'll say, 3 thousandths. I've tried this with a washer that measures 1 inch 60, and it would not work. So very little difference between 1 inch 60. I mean, I'm a machinist. There's a huge difference between 1 inch 03 and 1 inch 60, but for the average Joe, that's very little difference. And if you're 1 inch 60, it won't work. So either way, find some washers that have an OD of 1 inch. These particular washers have a thickness of 75 thousandths, 76. So ideally, I will redo this with 2 of these, but I need to buy some more. These are the last 2 I have. I've already done the left side of the bike, so now we're gonna do the right. So adding preload to the Honda Rebel suspension. I did not bother to take a video or picture, image, or anything of what it was like before and after. I probably should have, but I'm not gonna go back and redo it now. So the bike under its own weight compresses the front suspension at least 1.5 inches, probably closer to 2. So if your bike's sitting on the kickstand and you pull up on the handlebars and kind of lean it more aggressively on the kickstand, you will pull the suspension out some, and then when you let go of the bike, it'll settle back down. It's kind of like the droop of the suspension under the weight of the bike itself without you on it. That's fine. It's not a bad thing to have that. It doesn't mean anything's wrong or worn out or anything like that. But you can adjust your preload. I wouldn't recommend going a lot. Like, I've heard people on other bikes, I've even had people comment on my own videos before and say that they have, on the KLX 140 videos, that they've put like a 13mm socket in here on each side to increase the preload. Do not go that much. That's way too much preload. I would recommend at most 300 thousandths. So 250 thousandths is 1/4 inch. So I wouldn't go much more than 1/4 inch. These are 75 thousandths. Like I said, I'm gonna stop at the at Fastenal tomorrow on my way home from work, get some more of these exact same washers. So I'll have 150 thousandths extra of preload on each side. Now, for people that may wonder, think this is odd, or wonder if it's okay to do this, it's not gonna hurt the bike. A lot of times for off-road bikes, you can buy new caps that'll have a preload adjuster in the middle. And I'm not talking about for like a cartridge fork or an upside down fork. You can buy them for a upside down fork, like a conventional old school fork. And what it has is it has a washer in here. More or less it has a washer, and it has a set screw that runs through the middle. And you have the ability to tighten or loosen that set screw. And usually the adjustment range is around 300 thousandths. So that's why I say don't go more than 300 thousandths. It's not really a good idea. You could take these caps and you could easily chuck up on them in a 3-jaw, because it's got 6-sided hex. You could easily bore and tap a hole and do the same thing. You could put a solid washer in here, and you could run a pretty large, there's actually already a drill spot dimple from where this was bored out in the machining process. Again, I'm a machinist, so at least that's what it looks like to me. You would have drilled, and then they would have bored this ID. So anyway, there's a drill point in there. So you could easily put a very large set screw, roughly the size of that drill point, in here, and you could make that out of the stock cap on your own if you wanted to. Most people aren't going to have access to the equipment and tools to do that. So the redneck way, we'll call it, is to add washers. Most bikes actually have a spring spacer in here. The Rebel does not. I've pulled one of these springs out, this one, when I was doing it, and I didn't take a measurement on it, but roughly it runs all the way down to past the top of the lower part of the fork. A lot of bikes will have a short spring on the lower end. I don't even know if you can see my hand, but I have a short spring down here, and then at the top it'll have like a couple inches of a spacer, and it's usually a chromoly tube. It's very thin wall, but it's very strong. You can a lot of times replace the chromoly tube with a piece of PVC pipe. So take the 3-inch one out, cut you a piece of PVC pipe that's like 3-inch 300 thousandths or 3 1/4 inches long, and replace it. I was actually surprised the Honda Rebel's got a full length spring with no spacer. Now, funny enough, I will talk as I reinstall this. You do not need a bike stand to do this, but I will point out that you do not need to take these caps off with the bike on the side stand. If you take both of them off, it's going to fall over. The front suspension is going to compress as far as it'll go, and then it's going to fall over. If you take one of them out under the weight of the own bike, it's probably going to tip over if you're not prepared for it. So if you don't have a bike stand, just have a buddy come over, put the bike on the side stand, have your buddy grab it up here and pull weight to take the load off the front suspension, and have him hold it there for, this job won't take but 2 minutes to do. And it's a little cumbersome for me to try to A, film this, and B, do it, but you're just going to reinstall the cap with the washer in the middle between the spring and the cap. Now, this part's a little difficult, especially since I'm by myself. You do not want to cross thread this cap. It's very fine thread, so it can be easy to cross thread. But again, normal circumstances, this is like a 2 or 3 minute job per fork. You just want to be sure that you get this thing started and snug down without using, don't use an impact or do anything dumb like that. So I'm gonna run it down. I have simply ran this one down. I haven't torqued them yet. I'll do that now. Okay, so I haven't Googled a torque spec for these. These are 33 millimeter forks. So just based off all the other bikes I've done front suspension work on, I'm going to simply torque these to 20 foot-pounds. The actual spec is probably going to be between 15 and 18, but I would rather err on the slightly, and I do mean slightly, more aggressive side, as I had the weak side. And I've already torqued these. I was trying to figure out the torque before I took them loose, see what they were set at, and neither one of them budged until I put 22 foot-pounds on it before I ever loosened them. So I think they were probably torqued to 15 to 18 foot-pounds, and then they've probably never been removed, and therefore, to get them to budge took 22 foot-pounds. So I'm tightening them down to 20. There was something I was gonna say earlier, and I forgot it and went off on a tangent, and I can't remember now what it was. So yeah, torque them back down to 20. I'm sitting here clicking them at 20 all day. They're not stripping out, they're gonna be fine. And then we can get the bike off the stand and see if it made a difference. I don't even know if you can see that right now. No, you cannot. So this is what I'm talking about, the droop under the weight of the weight of the bike on its own. all the way out, ease off the bike, put no weight on it. We've got a solid inch, maybe an inch and a half of travel. If you think that adding such a small amount of preload is not going to make a difference, I promise you it does. Especially once you go up to 200 thousandths or 150 thousandths, somewhere in there, like double the amount I did here, because it is difficult to push the spring down deep enough to get the threads to start. So adding that preload will definitely make a difference. It's not a huge difference. It doesn't fix the problem. The problem is the bike has really weak forks and really weak springs. That's the problem. I haven't even Googled and done any research to see if somebody makes progressive springs, and it's already got progressive springs in it. I can tell you, because I took it out, it was a progressive rate spring. But I don't know if anybody makes anything stiffer, or if there's something that could be used from another Honda that's got a similar length fork that you could use. I'm not sure, haven't done that research, but adding preload is one option. If you're lightweight, 120 pounds or so, and you feel like the front end's a little soft, I would maybe recommend 1 to 2 washers. If you're a heavier person, 180, 200, 250 pounds, then I would recommend going 2 to 3 washers. And if you're, we'll just say if you're 150 to 200, go 2 washers, and if you're above 200, you might want to go 3 washers, assuming your washers are about 75 thousandths thick. So yeah, that's everything I got on this. It's probably a lot longer video than what I wanted to make. I've done this on a DR200, which I had documented in a video. You can go back through my video history and find it. Go back like 2 or 3 years, you'll find it. My KLR 650 had PVC spacers in it, took the chrome moly spacer out, added a longer spacer of PVC. It will make a difference. It's not going to be a ton of difference. It will be noticeable. So like I said, I'm going to stop myself. I'm not even going to ride the bike. I'm going to stop on my way home from work tomorrow. I'm going to double up on washers. So I'll be running 2 washers, which will be 150 thousandths worth of preload on each side. And I promise you, you will notice the difference if you do it. It only costs literally $2. The biggest thing is just making sure you do not get a washer that's larger than 1 inch. If you cannot find a 1 inch outside diameter OD washer, do not go smaller than 900 thousandths, 9/10 of an inch. That's all I got on that. I hope this helps somebody. If you try it, let me know how it worked out for you. Like I said, I'm going to double up on washers before I even ride it, and then take it for a spin tomorrow and see how I like it. I know I'm going to like it better, and I think you will too.